Be my grandfather, drafted, sent to Nam, infantryman private. On top of this, my grandfather is really short, like 4'5", gets assigned as a tunnel rat, disarm explosive and booby traps above ground, fight through and destroy Viet Cong tunnels below ground. Well, fuck, might as well shoot me right now. Another guy in his platoon, half Hispanic, is short, not as short as him, but still short. His name is Daniel, and is assigned as a tunnel rat with my grandfather. Together, they go on amazing subterranean adventures. Just kidding. Some of the shit they saw was, according to my grandfather, horrifying and mid-baggling. Story 1. Sent to clear and destroy the tunnels, equipped with a shitty flashlight, bayonet, some explosives, and an old revolver, because the M1911 were apparently shit for cleaning out tunnels. Basic missions, they've done this a couple times before by now. Tunnels are pretty small, even for a red tunnel. Not finding any traps or Viet Cong. The tunnel seems almost abandoned. Wherever, they stay on guard for booby traps or armed gooks lurking behind corners. Come to a larger section in the tunnels. They can stop crawling and go into a crouching half-standing position. They can hear water running through the tunnel. Start to think they either are above a river or that the tunnel just leads into a watery cavern. Daniel shines flashlight over the other side of the room. Sees about 4 completely massive spiders. My grandfather says that they were longer than a foot, and each had a leg span of about 2.0 to 2.5 feet. 3 of them were bunched up right next to each other. One was resting about 3 feet away from the cluster. My grandfather hates spiders. He sits there paralyzed. Both of them sit there quietly, just staring at the spiders. This goes on for about 2 minutes. Grandfather takes his eyes off the cluster, looks towards the other one, resting alone. It's not there. It's not there. My grandfather looks around and sees the spider on his left, slowly but steadily advancing towards them. He screams, "Fire at the thing." Doesn't even seems to slow down. He hauls ass back up the tunnel, with Daniel following close behind him. Daniel throws a grenade into the chamber as they are climbing back up through the tunnels. Who the fuck throw a grenade into a tunnel? Never mind. They get out screaming and yelling about spiders. Nothing follows them out. Must have died from the grenade, or it just stopped bursting them. My grandfather told me after the story that he's pretty sure that it wasn't even a Viet Cong tunnel they climbed into, but a tunnel that the spider themselves made. Story number 2. This one is shorter. Once again, crawling underground to destroy a Viet Cong tunnel. Crouch walking through the tunnels, they find a not-so-hidden booby trap. It's one of those booby traps that will release a bunch of scorpions or snakes upon tripping it. Grandfather and Daniel stop to consider their options, figure that they might be able to disarm the trap. How hard could it be? Pretty hard apparently. This one was very complex for some reason. Not sure how to disarm the trap without releasing poisonous death animals. They decided to just blow the fucker up. Hope that the tunnel doesn't collapse. America.jpg. Back up a good bit. Lob a grenade over in the general direction. Wait. Collateral damage. Trap is gone. Continue forward. As they get to where the former trap was, they notice another tunnel, exposed by the grenade. Out of the new tunnel comes a 5-foot long centipede which barrels right past them and down deeper into the tunnels. Fuck this. .jpg. Now wanting another incident like with the spiders, and haul ass out of the tunnel. They make it out of the tunnels, shaken, but no worse for wear. Story number 3. This one actually doesn't involve my grandfather directly, but is about some of the other stories that he heard from other guys while over there. At the beginning of the war, my grandfather was talking to a bunch of guys from a different company. They tell him about how they saw a bunch of wild apes in the jungles. Bullshit. There are no apes in Vietnam. As the war goes on, no more and more guys claim to have seen these apes. Oh fuck. They call them rock apes as they throw rocks at the soldiers they encountered. Apparently, they were coated in red hair and were normally about 5 feet tall. Grandfather still isn't convinced, thinks that they are either making shit up or are mistaken. Sorry to break it to you, my friend, that's called PTSD. Anyway, let's carry on. A bunch of guys get really defensive, say that they were awakened in the middle of the night by screams and howls. Really defensive. Say that they were awakened in the middle of the night by screams and hollers while being pelted by rocks. When they went out to investigate, they were ambushed by the things. Apparently, the apes were extremely wrong and managed to kill 2 different soldiers. Still managed to fend them off. Grandfather still doesn't really believe the guy, which was odd because he saw a lot of weird shit too. Grandfather says that he also heard stories about giant snakes in the jungles. Story number 4. About halfway through the war, orders to clear out some tunnels. Start crawling through. Start faintly hearing voices, either gooks or running water. Keep working their way through the tunnels. Voices get louder and louder. Oh fuck, this isn't water. Realize that they are probably really close to a room full of gooks. Gooks. I love this word. Decide to ambush them, then blow up the tunnels. Pull out their revolvers and rush further down into the caves. Fall into a spacious room. Large white eyes all around them. Fuck, that's a lot of gooks. Raising his flashlight, he notices that they are not Viet Cong. According to my grandfather, they were about 3 to 4 feet tall, lanky, white, and have big eyes and ears. They make a hissing sound at him and Daniel and start running deeper into the tunnels. Grandfather and Daniel are kind of awestruck and don't know what to do. Daniels keeps going on about Latin American folklores involving gnomes and shit. They eventually just climbed out and report the tunnel as being abandoned. Story number 5. This one actually doesn't involve tunnels. Day off, grandfather and other resting. A few of the other soldiers go down to a nearby river to cool off. About 30 minutes later, one soldier comes back screaming about how something in the river attacked one of them. Oh shit. They grab their rifles and first aid kit and run down to the river. 3 soldiers are on the bank of the river. One of them is bleeding profusely and the other 2 are administering basic first aid. Grandfather says that something tore his left leg completely off. They look in the river, which is now red from blood. They see a giant serpentine creature swimming around, yellowish and a long fins on its side. Said it looked like a massive moray eel with fins. What the fuck is this thing? They fire on it, and it darts further down the river. They get the guy back to camp, but he dies of blood loss along the way. Story number 6. Grandfather and Daniel about to dive into some more tunnels, about to go in, when they hear a deafening roar come from the tunnel. Says it sounds like a fucking dragon. Look at a nearby officer who just kind of shrugs and tells them to go in. Jeez, thanks asshole. This tunnel is apparently worse than most, filled with giant ants and spiders. Fucking spiders. Anyways, grandfather continues to crawl through. The roaring gets more frequent the further they crawl down. Fuck this. Not going to die today. They plant the charges right there and haul ass out of the tunnel. As they are crawling back up, the tunnel starts shaking like mad. They hurry the fuck up and get back to the surface. Everything up there is shaking too. They detonate the charges, destroying most of the tunnel. Roaring and shaking proceeds to stop. Story number 7. Near the end of the war, once again, clearing out tunnels. No creepy crawlies thus far. Crawling through, they realize that this tunnel leads into a cave of some sort. They explore the cave for a bit. They are about to head back up when they realize that there is a light coming from one of the passages in the cave. Not either of their lights. Oh shit. They grasp their revolvers and walk through the passage. My grandfather says that they walk into a well-lit room filled with brightly colored plant life that they couldn't recognize. The light was coming from an orb on the ceiling of the cave. Vividly colored birds flying around everywhere. What the actual fuck is this place? Him and Daniel explore a little. Among the other things, he finds spiky red fruit the size of a watermelon and a bright yellow pool of water. Grandfather says it looked like he was in a fever dream. They head towards the back of the room, find a stone altar. Blood is stained across the stone, and there is a couple of knives and other tools lying about stone. Their curiosity turns into dread. They turn around to get the hell out of there. They stop. There are 5 reptilian-looking humanoids staring at them. Says they were about 5.5 feet tall, blackish green, and scaly. They all appear to be wearing robes of some sort. Without hesitating, my grandfather and Daniel fire upon the creatures. One goes down, another strikes out in pain. The room gets extraordinarily bright, and my grandfather passes out. The passage him and Daniel went down is gone. Daniel is also laying down next to him, but he's barely breathing. My grandfather can only do so much for him down there, and drags Daniel out of the cave and back up through the tunnels. He gets back out and holds up Daniel. They grab him and send him off to get medical attention. After pulling Daniel out of the cave, grandfather remembers about what he saw in the cave, says that his vision once again goes black, and that he can't even remember the next 2 days. According to the other guys in his platoon, my grandfather was in a state of shock. He apparently could barely speak and suffered a lot, almost like he was shell-shocked or something. He was also sent to get medical attention. 2 days later, he mostly recovers. He goes back, asks the platoon about Daniel. Apparently, he died shortly after being pulled out of the tunnels. Grandfather breaks down. Apparently, the war was close to ending after that. He only delved into 2 more tunnels after that experience. Legitimately hated anything subterranean after that. He despised cave-in, insects, and lizard, and even requested to be cremated so that he wouldn't be buried underground. I showed him a picture of generic reptilian alien, and he just about had a heart attack. He said that it just needed to be blacker, but that besides that, it was pretty close. I don't have any more paranormal stories from grandfather about the war. Feel free to share if you have your own. Holy schmoly, that was a wild one. Most Vietnam stories come from soldiers who suffered severe PTSD and trauma. So I get why the tales about animals and insects sounds crazy. Anyway, that's all from me. This is S9, and have a good night.